All right, so good morning again and welcome to the Timothy Road Elementary Town Hall session. Ms. Hill and I are really excited to have you all join us. Again, as I mentioned before, this session is being recorded, and if you would like to continue to have your cameras muted while we do the recording, you are welcome to do so. If you have questions, you may add those to the chat. You may also choose not to participate in this recording. We do have a 6 p.m. session that will not be recorded, but we would like to post it for those who are unable to join us today. So thank you to all of you who were able to join. We appreciate your patience and your support as we've been working to reopen schools and make some instructional shifts for our students, as well as for you, our families, to get ready for November the 9th and this beginning start day. So Ms. Hill and I are going to go through a quick presentation with you just to talk you through some reopening things and what it will look like here at Timothy as it relates to the things that you've heard from the district offices, as well as the reopening from the school district level, and try to bring it down to the building level just so you have more of an idea of what to expect and what's going to happen at the building level. So we just kind of wanted to roll through some of those things with you this morning. So I'm going to share my screen at this time. And in this screen share, I do have a quick PowerPoint that I will make available to you so that you are able to view it at another time as well. Uh-oh. Not trying to do that. I was trying to present it. Let's see if I can move my thingy so I can see. There we go. All right. Ms. Hill, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started because I can't see all of you, but I can see my screen. I want to make sure you guys can see it as well. So in this session, we're just going to go over a couple of highlights and nothing very fancy, but just some real key information for you. So our school hours for the reopening that begins on November the 9th will be 7:40 to 2:35, which is our normal hours that we've operated from, 7:40 being the time that students marked tardy, and 2:35 will be the last time of our dismissal. That time will be adjusted slightly, and we'll talk about that as we talk about students coming in, as well as the time for students to dismiss at the end of the day. Our virtual student time will remain approximately the same, with around an 8:30 start time for instruction. However, they'll be logging on somewhere around 8:15 to get the morning announcements and then to kick off their day as well. And their instruction will end at 2 o'clock. So those will be our school hours beginning November the 9th. We do have our regular drop off and pick up. And so we have 3 different ways that students can be dropped off and picked up: car riders, walkers, and our bus riders. Our car riders, we have 2 lines, and it's going to be really important this year that everyone maintains those 2 lines. We have to keep them separate for lots of reasons. One, we want to ensure that our students are not congregating and that we're able to really minimize the large numbers of students in any given area. So we're going to really ask, and we're going to have to enforce that everyone use the appropriate lines. In past years, we've had people just jump in lines where they felt like it was easiest, but it really is important that you stick to the lines that we have set up. In the front drop off, we like to use the front for our pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade students only, and their older siblings. So families can drop off together. We're not going to ask you to jump into 2 different lines, but we do ask our pre-K, kinder, first grade students and older siblings use the front line only. Our second, third, fourth, and fifth grade students, we ask to use the our sidecar line, which is located in the side parking lot at the second entrance of the building. Again, sibling groups can travel with the youngest of the family group, and everyone that is a car rider needs a car tag for pickup in the afternoons. We are going to begin dismissing around 2:15. It doesn't help to get in line super duper early. We know that people like to line up really early at Timothy, and it really causes confusion on the roads, especially our main thoroughfare of Timothy Road. So it really doesn't help to get in line that much earlier. we use a computer generated system called silent dismissal, and every family will be given a number, and your children will be picked up according to that number. So that's why a car tag is needed. You may pick up a car tag if you're able to on tomorrow during that 11 to 4 student pickup time. However, if you're not able to pick up tomorrow and you're dropping off on next week, when you get in line, we can get you a car tag to pick up next week, or you can get one during the school day. And we can make sure everyone has a car tag. That's going to be really important. We cannot issue a car tag without proper ID. So we do need to know that you are actually the person that's picking up, and then we issue those car tags. And we issue 2 car tags. It'll be your responsibility to get those car tags to the appropriate person that is picking up your students. For our bus riders, our bus rider information is located on the web query under transportation on the CCSD site. That web query will allow you to see what time your bus will pick up and the exact location. All you have to do is plug in your address, and it'll give you the bus number, and it gives you the time of pickup and the approximate time of drop off in the afternoon. If you have any trouble with understanding that web query, because some people don't find it very user friendly. So if you have any trouble with understanding how to use it, don't hesitate to call the school, and Miss Payne, our receptionist, Miss Lester, our secretary, or Miss Hill, our assistant principal, can help you identify your bus information. Also, students at the buses will be loaded from back to front. We are trying to operate with small numbers on our buses. So buses typically hold approximately 70 students or so. They are trying to hold only about 48 of those kids, so that they can maintain small numbers, but also seat students according to family groups, as well as seat them with the same person every day. And so if your student is a bus rider, they will be required to wear a mask on the bus. The bus will have fresh air flowing. They're going to have the windows cracked while it's cold to have fresh air flowing. They are required to wear their masks, and students will be temperature checked when they get to the building. The other thing that you'll need to make note of with the buses is that in some of our neighborhoods, our buses will have to run double routes because the bus numbers will have a smaller load. And so in an effort to run those double routes, we're going to you'll be noticing different pickup times. Our buses may be dropping off as early as 7 a.m. And so we'll have those students in a location in our gym. We'll hold them until we can dismiss them to their classrooms. And at that time, we'll hold them and send them on to their classrooms at 7:10 so that they can begin their day. Again, but that's for our bus riders. If students are walking to school or riding their bikes, we do have bike racks that are located in the front of the building. They may park their bikes there and lock them there, and they may enter through the front of the building. All those students who walk to school or are or bike to school, they're welcome to do that. And in the afternoon, those students are picked up in a different location that we will go over in just a moment. When students arrive in the mornings, they can arrive as early as 7:10, because again, we have some bus riders coming at 7 o'clock. They can arrive as early as 7:10, and you can drop them off at that time. They're going to have a grab and go style breakfast. We have carts that will be available in 3 locations in the building, and we'll have those set up for the students. When they come in and they pick up their breakfast, they're going to take those to their classrooms. Before they pick up their breakfast, they will be sanitizing their hands, because there'll be hand sanitizing stations located at the carts, and they'll pick up their breakfast and take it straight to their classrooms. In their classrooms, they'll wash their hands before they eat and again afterwards, because we want to make sure that we're making sure that the kids are staying safe while they're washing their hands and before they're eating their breakfast. And again, that's a time where they won't have their masks on while they're eating. So we want to make sure that they are properly distanced and that they are in a clean area as well. Now, let's talk a little bit about instruction for just a moment. In thinking in terms of our instruction, we have made some instructional shifts that you guys are being made aware of. Many of you got phone calls on yesterday. Some of you got phone calls or getting phone calls today, but we have made shifts in terms of how we are serving our students. We have two models basically that are running, our face-to-face and our virtual. And within those, we are working with students even within those two models in different ways. So our face-to-face classes will be the same homeroom teachers that your students have had. Our class sizes are running on average 10 to about 13 students in the classrooms, and our virtual classes are running on average of 11 to about 13 students. Those classes, the virtual classes, will be taught by those teachers that have been the support teachers since the first day of school. And so the support teachers include our EIP and our gifted teachers that your students have been working with already. What we tried to do is pull students with teachers they are already familiar with, so that they don't have to make shifts to learn a new person, but that person is already working at that grade level and working with those students. So for example, that teacher who was supporting those students for reading and for math at their grade level, and you've already met them, that's their teacher, that's who their teacher will be. In some grade levels, for example, in fourth grade, we had way more students becoming virtual, and so we had to make some shifts. And so again, they still have a fourth grade assigned teacher. However, it may not have been the person that they were assigned to since September the 8th, but we wanted to keep it with the person that they knew or that they were most familiar with as much as possible, and to make sure it was a person that was already familiar with their standards as well as where they are in the pacing guide, to keep them going and not have to set them back at all. All right. So now I've gone over school hours, drop off, and instruction, which is a lot of information at one time. Ms. Blankenship?
Yes.
Can you check the chat for me, or is there a question in the chat?
Yes, I think there is.
I've been answering them as we go.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
And I'm waiting on Carla's response for me to answer the latest one about a pre-K student already being connected with our second graders car tag, because we do want to connect those together.
Yes.
And usually we do that at the beginning of the year when parents are allowed in the building. So I'm asking Carla, our wonderful receptionist, who usually does those car tags, what she prefers. So it might have to be a phone call into Ms. Payne so that we can make that connection.
Perfect.
There is one question that just came in. Will Friday school hours for virtual students be 8:30 to 2?
Yes, we are going to continue the 8:30 to 2 hours on Fridays, because we don't want our virtual students to get behind while our in-person students are continuing to have regular instruction. So I've gone over school hours, drop off, and breakfast. And so and instructions, I want to pause for just a moment to see if anyone else that is sitting has a question about those areas before I move into classroom space. And if you do, you're welcome to unmute and ask your question. Okay, I was trying to practice my wait time. Thank you. All right, I'll keep going. So our classroom spaces. In thinking about our classroom space, our student desks will be separated individually. You do know that in pre-K and in kindergarten, we have tables. And so student tables will be separated by barriers that have been provided by the operations department. Those tables, I'm sorry, not the tables themselves, but the table spaces, so that students can actually have an individual space at their tables. We are working to separate children as best as possible within those table seatings and to provide them additional spacing in the classrooms. Those large group tables that we have will be used minimally for instruction. However, those areas will be wiped down, and students will clean their hands prior to and after joining those large group areas. When I speak of large group tables, I mean in terms of reading groups, because we want to continue instruction. We need to catch our students up. So able to provide them reading instruction or to give them more one-on-one instruction, we may have to come to their individual desk. But in the event we have to do a group assignment, like a reading group, which will be used minimally, then those would be the times that's about a 15-minute or less time where they're gathered in a small group of about 5. And even at that time, it'll be the same group every single time because we're cohorting students, and they would be wiping down their areas and being separated at a table. Again, in the classrooms, masks will be worn, but there will be frequent mask breaks given, at a minimum of 30 minutes. But I want the teachers to really schedule those according to student needs, because I've told them that they have to identify what their students are able to handle. And some of them may need a 20 or 15-minute break. And so if that's the case, that's what we'll provide. We want to make sure our students get mini mask breaks, but we also want to make sure that as long as they are seated within close proximity, within a closed section, like in the classroom, that they have their masks on. And we want to make sure that they are staying within their cohort groups, which keeps them around the same people at all times. That's going to help in the event of contact tracing. If we have to do contact tracing in the event that someone does test positive. Going on with classroom space, we do have supplies. And so our individual supplies will include pencils, markers, crayons, paper, their learning devices, scissors, those things that we sent home with kids. Those are things that they'll want to bring back with them, with the exception of manipulatives. Those things they can probably will work with the teachers on to see if the teachers want them to bring their individual bag of manipulatives to work on. Some teachers say yes, and some classrooms say no, we have more in the classroom to give them an individual set. The only shared supplies that they will have may be like guided reading books, but this is how those will work. Those books, when they come and they have the set of books, then that group that's using those books will wash their hands before they use them. They will use the books, they will leave the table. Those books will be put into like a 72-hour hold before they're used by another group, so they can be disinfected. That's why I'm calling those shared supplies. They will wash their hands after them, and those supplies will always be sanitized between use so that the next group that may touch those books may not touch them for 72 hours. And so that is why those are the types of things that will be, that we consider shared, but those are things that won't be shared back to back. The same thing is for like toys, like in pre-K, other things that they may use. Those things will be sanitized and not used back to back with students. But kids' hands will constantly be washed before and after use, and things will be removed and sanitized. Their personal items will be kept at their individual student desks unless space allows the use of hooks or cubbies in the classrooms. In some of the classrooms, for example, in kindergarten and in pre-K, there are cubbies within the classroom. And so they can have their own individual cubby. In our other classrooms, there are hooks where kids are used to hanging their backpacks and their coats, but we don't want them cross-contaminating their personal items. So if a class has 11 kids and there are 25 hooks and they can spread them out, then they're able to do so. In the event they are unable to, then we're going to let them keep their backpacks and their jackets at their own desks and let the teachers work around that space. So the teachers themselves will let you know face to face what that looks like, if they need to, if they'll be allowed to keep their things at their desk or if they'll have to hang them up to give them more space. All students will be given a water bottle for use at our water filling stations, and they'll also be given a mask lanyard that'll be kept in the classroom. The mask lanyard is for them to have ease of taking their masks off and putting them back on without losing them or dropping them on the floor. And we want to make sure that those mask lanyards stay here in their personal desk or in their personal cubbies so that they don't get lost and they're able to use them again. The water bottles are being provided for students. You are welcome to provide a water bottle. However, we're going to provide water bottles for them because we no longer have active water fountains. We have water fountains in the building, but our water fountains are not on. They're totally disconnected, and we have water filling stations. So those water bottles will fit in the water filling station, and students can actually put their bottles up to them, and they're automatic. They fill the bottles, they move the bottle, it turns off. They don't have to touch anything but their own water bottle. They're also going to be given something I left off the slide, but I will add on. They're also going to be given a hand sanitizer to keep on their own person as well. And so that's something that's being donated by the Community Engagement Office for all students. So let's talk about hallway transitions for just a moment. We have hallway signs, and our floor markers have not yet been installed. We're still waiting on those to arrive. However, our hallway signs are posted around the building. They showed students how to walk on the right-hand side. They're green arrows and red X's to show not to walk on certain sides of the hall. The floor markers will be installed for social distancing, where they'll actually have dots to stand on in specific areas, such as in the cafeteria when they're waiting to go through the line to pick up their lunch. Our students in grades K through 5 will transition to special areas. That includes art, music, and PE. Their hands will be sanitized prior to entering those classes. Those students will be appropriately spaced while they're in those classrooms. And again, some materials may be shared, such as balls during PE or paint brushes. They may have their own set of paint brushes there, but those paint brushes may be recycled for another class at another time. Certain drawing materials, such as crayons, instruments that are played by hands, like our drums, those things will be sanitized and disinfected between use, and students will have their hands washed and sanitized during and after class. Tables and chairs will also be disinfected between classes, and our virtual students will have access to specials, but those will be pre-recorded lessons. They will be required to do those pre-recorded lessons, and they'll be given projects as well to turn in to measure their skills and their participation. Our media center is also available to students. Our face-to-face students will have classes where they'll actually go in and participate in the media lessons and check out books. That will be the only time they'll be allowed to check out books, is during the time they go in with their classes. And that is because we don't want kids wandering in the hallways. We don't want them, we don't want a large number of kids in the hallways. And if one class sends 3 kids, another class sends 2 kids, another class sends 4, and they're not communicating with each other, we can get a large number of kids gathering in the hall or even in the media center. So that they will only be able to check out books when they go as a class, and those books will be available for them. They will also be on a 72-hour hold when they're returned, so they can be disinfected and then put back into the rotation. Our virtual students will also still have access to virtual classes for pre-recorded lessons for the media center, but then they'll also be able to do virtual book checkout as we have set up now. Ms. Rodriguez, our media specialist, is working through a new setup time so that parents can come and pick up books, as well as have opportunities for students to do their virtual checkouts using the system that's already in place. So I'm going to pause there for a second, because we talked about classroom space, we talked about our instructional sizes, and we talked about hallways and transitions.
Dr. Worthy, there's a question in the chat about what a mask break looks like.
Yeah.
Can you hand that over?
So the mask breaks would be, for example, in a classroom where the teachers will have some sort of a signal. It could be a bell, it could be a hand signal, it could be something that will let the kids be able to take their masks off, but it wouldn't be everybody at the same time. So everyone would be assigned a time. So that mask break could be happening like every 15 minutes, all around the hour. It could be everybody doing something at a different time. So it may be that there are 5 kids that are in group A. And so the teacher may say group A is your mask break time. And then those kids may be seated in 5 different areas across the classroom. For example, in the back left corner, front right corner, in the middle. They would still be seated across the classroom. When it's time for that mask break, those kids will take their mask breaks. That means they'll literally take their masks off so they can take a break from them, still seated in their area. And then when their time is up, They'll put their masks back on. It'll be time for group B's time to take their mask break. The teacher's going to keep teaching and the work is going to continue. So it won't be a time where everyone just stops what they're doing, but it'll just happen naturally as part of our instruction. It is going to take some time to really train the kids up and teach them how to do it. But we've seen where other school districts and classrooms are doing it and making it happen very seamlessly. So we really have a lot of confidence that our kids will be able to do it as well. The same thing will happen at recess, which I'll get to at another slide, but they'll also have mask breaks during recess as well. Did anyone else have a question that you'd like to unmute and ask? All right, fantastic. Let's talk about the cafeteria for a moment. So students will transition to the cafeteria. When they go, they'll be going in to pick up their lunch choices as usual. However, the difference is they'll be picking up their milk choice, and then typically when they go to the cafeteria, they grab their trays and they pick up all the items they'd like to eat. But now, as we go through, they will actually tell or point to the items that they want to eat, because there will be a sneeze guard that's covering up all the food. And the cafeteria, our nutrition staff will actually plate the items for the students, and then they slide the trays down and present the tray to the student to take with them. We are working on, we have a schedule that's set up that allows students to eat in the cafeteria 2 days a week and every other Friday, but they are doing so with the same cohort group, same grade level, and same monitor. And we are doing this for multiple reasons. One, we want to give them a change of scenery out of their classrooms, so they're not having to eat in their classrooms every single day. We want to also provide a duty-free lunch break for our teachers at least 2 days a week, which is something that we are supposed to give our teachers by law, but under this pandemic, that's really hard to do. And so we're trying to give them that break at least 2 days a week. And we're also trying to ensure that we can do this in a safe manner. As of right now, our students will be seated when they come into the cafeteria. Ms. Hill has worked out a fabulous lunch schedule for them, where they are no more than our max number is 60 in the cafeteria, because as a school, we have the leeway for our numbers to be a little bit more than the 50 group maximum that the governor has outlined. However, our max number that we're comfortable with in that cafeteria is 60 with appropriate distancing. So our students will be seated only 4 to our octagonal tables that usually seat 8. They're going to be seated at 4 to a table, but those 4 that are seated at one table will not be seated in the same place at the next table. They'll be seated turned in a different directions to allow for appropriate distancing, and to ensure that they have space from table to table and from student to student. Again, same grade level, same cohort of student, and the same monitor that will be monitoring those kids in the cafeteria. Those students that are not eating in the cafeteria will be eating in their classrooms the other 2 days a week, and every other Friday, they'll eat in their classrooms. The desks will be cleaned prior to eating and immediately afterwards. The students will be supervised by their teachers on those days, and our virtual students will still have lunch from 11 o'clock until 12. And there is curbside lunch available for virtual students, but it must be pre-ordered using the My Payments Plus website. Now you can access that site through the CCSD general website, and under nutrition, go to My Payments Plus, and I'll push out a flyer about that as well, so that you'll know how to access it. And we'll have curbside pickup available if you'd like to come by the school and pick up lunch. It will be very important that we know in advance that you're going to come and pick up lunch, because we don't have additional staff to support that. Our regular nutrition staff of 5 will be the ones, and today it's 4, but they'll be the ones that will be providing lunch for our in-person students and supporting the curbside. So we do need to know in advance who's coming, so they can actually support making sure they have lunch available for everyone. So I'm going to stop right there because there may be questions about the cafeteria and lunch. Again, you are free to unmute at any time to ask those questions.
I was just going to note there's several questions in the chat. So if questions aren't voiced, make sure to check those before the next section.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Blankenship, do you want to ask any of those that have not been answered in the chat?
Sure, just wanted to give people a chance to voice questions also. So we've answered the mask break. Are parents allowed to walk children inside the school during the morning drop-off?
So I will, I do have a slide for that as well, but the short answer is no. And I'll explain why at the when we get to that slide, but the short answer is no.
Okay. Specials be the same schedule as it has been during virtual?
Ms. Hill, do you want to take that one?
Yes, I can. So it will be about the same. We do want our virtual teachers and our face-to-face teachers to have the same planning time so that we can match instruction. And so it's about the same time. Second grade kind of crosses over a little bit because virtual has an 11 to 12 same time every day. So that's a little bit of interference, but for the most part, yes. And teachers should be getting with you about that schedule because most of them have already completed the schedule, virtual and face-to-face.
There are a couple of questions about lunch here. Someone's asking for the link to the daily lunch menu, so we'll make sure we post that in the chat for you guys. And then will students be allowed to pack/bring lunch from home?
This is all just in review for our test, all right? So it's okay.
Yes, students can bring their lunch from home. That is always appropriate. Uh-oh. I think I need to mute somebody. Hold on. Got it. Yes, so students can bring their lunch from home. That is quite all right. We do want to make sure that they are able to remember to bring it, because again, when I get to the slide at the bottom about visitors, I'll explain more in more detail, but students can bring their lunch from home. You just want to make sure they can remember to bring it. Did I miss one?
We're going to post the link for daily lunch menu, but we'll make sure we get it in the chat. We're caught up now.
And they're also, the lunch menu can also be found on the CCSD site under nutrition as well. Okay. Oops, sorry. All right, so let's talk about cleaning because that's an important thing. So we do have a cleaning schedule, and I put down the high points for you because basically our custodial staff will be doing lots of cleaning and our teachers will be doing lots of cleaning as well to help what's happening in the classrooms. So our custodial staff gets here very early in the morning to kick off and get things ready for the day. They are outside of basic cleaning, which includes, and I do have a full list of things that they do, but outside of basic cleaning, which includes dusting and sweeping, vacuuming, and mopping, they are also going to be cleaning our high touch areas, doorknobs, handles, door handles, making sure those large spaces, the cafeteria, the gym, those areas, art rooms, lobby areas, making sure those large spaces are cleaned very frequently. There is a schedule for cleaning. They are using a variety of cleaning solutions. So we have, and I can go and find more in depth if you'd like to know more about these cleaning solutions, but we have cleaning solutions that they use that's called E23, Purell, and a Sani 10. Those are the cleaning solutions that they use. They use those when they're mopping. They use those for wiping down things. And we do have the Sani 10s, or like the hand sanitizer cleaning wipes that they use. Those things will be used all around the building. They're going to be wiping down surfaces, cleaning the bathrooms, cleaning the sinks, disinfecting toilets and latches, making sure there's enough soap, paper towels, tissue that's stocked, making sure they're mopping in the bathrooms when there are messy areas. In the classrooms, teachers are going to have to assist because our custodians will be hitting those high touch areas. So teachers will be assisting by spraying student desks with the Purell or the Sani 10 or the E23, whichever we're in stock at that time. They'll be spraying the student desk with those things. Students will be given a microfiber cloth that they can actually wipe their desk with. That's going to be used frequently during the day when they get there in the morning, so they can eat breakfast, before they eat lunch, after they eat lunch, to make sure they're eating off of a clean surface. And then those microfiber cloths will be disposed in a laundry bag, and our custodial staff will be laundering those every single day. Our kids will be given 2 apiece so that they can make sure they have a clean one every day, but they will be given 2 apiece. And those cleaning solutions are not harsh chemicals. We would never give our students any type of harsh chemicals. I know in our pre-K and kindergarten areas, they will also have cloths. However, I know our teachers are going to do more helping with them in making sure their tables and things are clean. Our older kids will be able to wipe their desk and hang those little cloths on the corners of their desk. The table legs is where they'll keep them. And then we'll put those in laundry bags. Our custodial staff will pick them up, and they will actually launder those every day. The other thing is when they finish eating breakfast, they will be provided trash bags. Our custodial staff will bring trash bags to classrooms for breakfast, and then the trash will be left outside the doors so they can pick it up. Same thing for lunch. For those classes that are eating lunch in the classrooms, then they'll be provided a trash bag when they pick up lunch, and those things will be left inside the outside the classroom door, and then the custodial staff will pick it up. And then everyone is going to be out of the building by 4:30, including the staff, so that they can begin deep cleaning. And that's going to include the things that I just mentioned, but also using the bigger machines that they have. They have a machine called a Cal Vac that goes through and really does a deep clean of the floors. They'll be doing that. They'll be making sure they're wiping down areas again. They'll be doing more of the vacuuming, doing the defogging. We have a defogging machine. They'll be defogging the classrooms. Those things will be happening on a regular basis in the afternoons, and then more in depth on Fridays before we leave. And so I wanted to make sure that we touch those things, but they're using E23, which is the basic cleaning solution Monday through Thursday for the classroom surfaces, but they have an E15 solution, which is a little bit different. That's not going to be given to students or teachers, that they will actually use for Fridays. And again, their goal will be to clean doors, glass handles, door frames, and all of those things as well. In terms of playground equipment, I mentioned that we are going to make sure kids' hands are clean. We have standalone hand sanitizing stations that will be located at our playground entrance and exits. So before they go out, they have to have clean hands. While they're out there, teachers will have hand sanitizer. When they come in, they have to have clean hands, just to make sure that we're just keeping them as clean as possible and teaching them not to touch their faces. And that's how we're going to attempt to operate for our cleaning schedules. So I'm gonna pause there because you may have questions about the cleaning. Anything in the chat, Ms. Blankenship?
Not concerning cleaning, and we're coming up on one of the questions, so we're caught up.
Okay. Anyone have a question about cleaning? All right, so I'm going to hit recess. So our recess is going to be staggered by grade level. We also have it staggered in zones. The kids will be able to use the playground equipment, our basketball courts. Ms. Hill has divided our field into sections for them to play. And we also have an outdoor space that's set aside just for PE use. Of course, they're trying to get outside as much as possible while the weather permits. So it's going to be really important that kids remember their jackets, because we do want to give them as much fresh air as possible. So they'll be going outside a lot. And when they go out for recess, I mentioned those hand sanitizing stations that will be used, and those mask breaks are allowed during recess. Kids are not required to have their masks on at recess unless they are not 6 feet apart. And so we are really wanting to make sure that they are keeping their masks on when they're really, really close to each other. We're teaching them to use elbow bumps and instead of, handshakes and hugs, and which will be really hard for our little ones, but we're going to try to teach them to use elbow bumps instead, and just to make sure that they're keeping their hands clean and out of their faces. But especially when they're running, trying to make sure their masks are not on so that they can run freely and be able to have a good time when they go outside to play. During our dismissal, we use, again, that silent dismissal system, which allows, once you get your number assigned to you, that will allow us to have our numbers. Your number will be punched into our system. It pops up in the classroom, and then the students will be dismissed to you. We are going to be putting them into the cars in the afternoons. And so that's how we'll stagger our dismissal. We're not going to have large groups of kids gathered and just sitting outside and waiting. So we are going to try to make sure they're coming out just a few at a time so we can load them, which is why I've said, it doesn't make sense to really come super duper early, because we do want to make sure that we can load kids appropriately. Your pickup location is the same as your drop off, with pre-K for kinder and first in the front, second, third, fourth, and fifth on the side, and sibling groups are all together. If you have a younger one that's in a booster that you need to buckle up, we're going to ask you to put them in the car. We're going to ask you to pull all the way up where the parking spaces are, pull over and buckle them up there and not in the line, because it just holds the line up. In the mornings, the one thing I forgot to mention is when you come in the mornings, try to make sure once you turn into the drop off, go ahead and try to get them unbuckled as much as possible. We don't have safety patrols because that's not safe this year, but we will make sure that the adults are out there to help unload students. But it is going to be important that you have them unbuckled when they get into the car rider drop off line to help with the ease of getting them out the car. If you're a walker and you're picking up, you'll also bring your car tag, and your car tag your number will be punched, and we'll bring the walkers down to you. Again, we just ask that you not gather in groups, and that you not linger once you pick up your students, so that we don't have them lingering as well. That'll be on the far left side of the building in the back parking lot where our walkers we picked up. And if you need a new car tag, you can get one during, I told you, during the pickup tomorrow between 11 and 4, or you can get one next week, and we can make sure you have one ready to go. Our buses will also be dismissed one load at a time and by grade level. We're going to make sure that they come out using that same system. We color code our buses, so you may hear your kids say, I ride the pink bus, and you're like, well, what is that? That bus number is 3 whatever, but I ride the pink bus. And so we color code the buses for our students. We want to make sure that we're loading them by color and loading them by grade level, so we can ensure we have everybody on the bus that's supposed to be there. And we're going to start dismissing at 2:15 just to ensure that we can get everyone loaded. And for those buses that have to run a double route, they can come back and pick up their next load. That's going to be really important. So the last piece that I wanted to get to is our visitors. Visitors and volunteers are not allowed at this time. We really are trying to ensure that we are keeping this building as safe as possible. And we want to, in order to do that, we just can't have a lot of people in and out. Bringing in students is really going to be hard enough, because we're bringing in multiple families. So we got to keep our kids safe. We have to keep our staff safe. And it's going to be important that we do so without allowing extra visitors. So we're not allowing visitors. We don't have any student teachers right now. We don't have any volunteers coming into the building. You may not walk students inside in the morning. In fact, when you drive them up, you need to stay in your car. We don't want you to get out and unbuckle them, because that holds up the line and leaves traffic hanging off onto Timothy Road. We just need kids to come up. You unbuckle them if you can very quickly from the front seat. We'll help them get out the car. We really would appreciate you just talking your kids through what that's going to look like, and we'll help them get inside. get inside, and our teachers and our parapros and other staff members are already assigned to duties to help get them to their classrooms. We will not be dropping off items. We're asking you not to drop off things to the building. So things that they may have forgotten during the day, or lunch or things like that, we are not accepting any drop off items, because again, we don't want students just moving all throughout the building, and we definitely don't want kids having to come into the office if they don't have to, especially in the event that we have a positive case. And I do want to mention what that's going to look like too. Our office entry, if for some reason you need to say do an early checkout, or you need to come in and provide, provide some information, or you have an appointment, then we do have a Ring doorbell and an Echo Show in our glass foyer where you can communicate with our receptionist, Ms. Payne, and that will limit entry into our building. If you need to do a checkout, she can check IDs from there. If you do an early checkout, you have to do it before 2:00 p.m. because at that point, that's when we begin lining students up and getting them to their locations. And we don't want to lose children. So it's really important that you do so before 2:00 if you have to do an early checkout. She will handle checking kids out. She'll also handle checking kids in if they're tardy in the morning. We are expecting delays because we will be temp checking students when they come in. So we are expecting some delays, especially the first couple of weeks that kids are coming in. So we'll be very we'll extend a lot of grace during the mornings for drop off, but it is important that you are not just dropping your kids and leaving them. If you are late to school, you need to walk them into the glass foyer so that Ms. Payne can check them in. That's going to be really important. Anybody that arrives after that 7:45 time, if there is no one out in the front, then please walk them into the glass foyer, because we don't want them locked out of the building. And so the building doors will be locked. We won't have anyone coming in. We won't have anyone moving around. In the event that we have a positive case, I know someone had asked about our contact tracing. Our teachers are assigning the exact same seating arrangements. Our art and music teachers are doing the same thing. In PE, they're going to have assigned spacing for kids in cohorts as they do games. And so it's going to be really important that we are keeping to that so that we can do proper contact tracing. We have a COVID response team in the building. It's made up of Ms. Hill and myself, as well as Ms. Payne, who's our receptionist. She'll be making the phone call in the event a staff member or a student tests positive, to make a phone call to their parent or spouse. We have our nurse Linda is on the team, as well as Miss Barrett, who's our behavior interventionist. She's there to offer support and to help supervise whoever the person is. And we also have our custodial staff who will help to disinfect the space. We have an isolation room that is located in the office area. It's in our old admin conference room that's located off to the side of our office, which is another reason we don't want kids just walking all around the building. So in the event that someone tests positive, is exhibiting any types of symptoms, then we're going to get them down into that isolation room. We're going to get them checked out, and our COVID response team is going to go into action and start making phone calls to go ahead and get that person to their parent or to their spouse, so that they can actually get out of the building, and then we can begin contact tracing. In the event that that's going to happen, we are not going to tell you exactly, of course, exactly who it was. We are not going to say we had a positive student, because that can be easily narrowed down. We're also not going to say we've had a positive teacher, because that too can be easily narrowed down. We are going to tell you if your student has been exposed, then we're going to say then your child has been exposed to someone who may have tested positive. In the event that we don't know, or if they have tested positive, we're going to say your child's been exposed to someone that has tested positive. You will be notified. You'll be notified via letter. You may be notified via phone if it was a close contact, which is why we're keeping those cohort groups together. And that is why we are keeping tabs on where kids are sitting in the cafeteria, in their classrooms, everywhere they're going. So we know exactly who they're by, even on the bus. So it's really important that we know who they're by so we can actually make those appropriate phone calls back to you. In terms of reporting, the district will be keeping information, and they're going to be sharing that information out with the public in terms of how many positive cases we have as a district. But we are not going to drill it all the way down to sharing with you. At Timothy, we have one student and one teacher because that can be easily identifiable. And we want to keep people's personal information personal. But we will let you know if you have a student or well, yeah, that's what it is. If you have a student who may have been in contact with an individual, whether it was an adult or a child that tests positive, because of the way because of the way we have things set up, we'll be able to let you know if someone has tested positive and if you've been in contact with that person. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen at this time.
We have a couple of questions in the chat, Dr. Worthy.
I'll take them.
I may have missed the answer to this, but will pre-K students be following the same grab-and-go breakfast or eating at a later time in class as done in the past?
Pre-K will eat at a later time. Yes. And I'm working with pre-K. I'm actually meeting with them today. So your pre-K teachers will let you know if they're going to eat in the classroom or if they're going to eat in the cafeteria. We're trying to provide them an opportunity to eat in the cafeteria for two reasons. One, they're so little and it's so hard for them to carry stuff back to their rooms, especially in the beginning. So we want to give them an opportunity to eat in the cafeteria. And if they do, especially in the mornings, there is no one else in there but them. In the afternoons, we have it set up, not the afternoons, but during their lunchtime, we have it set up where they may be the only ones in the cafeteria for a short period of time. And then there may be one other grade level that's clean across the cafeteria from them. So your pre-K teachers will let you know for sure if they'll be having breakfast in the classroom or if they'll be having breakfast in the cafeteria, but they will not participate in the grab and go.
What happens when a teacher has a fever or tests positive? Will you have substitute teachers or will students have to pile into another classroom when a substitute is not available?
We will not pile students up at all. We will have substitutes available. And in the event that we do not have a substitute, then Ms. Hill and I are certified teachers. So we will go in there and teach that class. We've done that before, but we're not going to double kids up at all, I promise you, because our goal is to make sure that they stay within their cohort groups. We do have subs that are already set up. And they've already gone through training. So we're really excited about that. We also have our own set of subs that we like to use that already know our building. They already know our students and they already know our how things work in our building. In the event that our teachers test positive, but they're feeling well and they can still teach their class virtually, then we're going to allow them to stay home and tap into their class and let the sub manage the class in person. That way they can stay with their teacher still and just become virtual students in the classroom. So that's something that we're really working to be able to do, because sometimes depending on how this thing works, if teachers aren't feeling, if they're not exhibiting symptoms or they're not feeling, so bad, but they need to be isolated, then they can still teach from home and we can get a sub in the building to cover the class. What else do you have, Ms. Blankenship?
That's it. We're all caught up in the chat.
No, there's another question.
Gosh, that just came in. I'm sorry.
Temperature checks, are all students having their temperature checked in the morning?
Yes. So right now, all students are having their temperatures checked. That is something that the district has put out into for all elementary students, and we are temperature checking them, and we want to make sure, it's kind of crazy because we know that they're going to come in your cars. It's cold in the morning. They're going to be bundled up. They're going to be hot. anyway. You're going to have the heat on. So we're going to really be monitoring those temperature checks. If we have to do a second check, then we're going to do so with our nurse, and she has a follow-up thermometer if we need to. We all have contactless thermometers that we'll have at all of our car rider stations and our bus stations to really be able to temperature check kids. But in the event that a child is reading warm, we'll do a second check before we ask you to take them home. We're not just going to send them directly back home, but we may ask you to pull to the side and wait so that we can actually do a second check on them.
Another question just came in. Dr. Worthy, you mentioned something about picking up items tomorrow from 11 to 4. We haven't received any information about that. Will virtual parents need to come pick up anything at that time, or is it only for car tags?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, we posted something, and I'm sorry that you missed it. I'll push it back out again today. We are having virtual students pick up materials for second quarter. So if there's anything, so books, second quarter math books and other materials they're going to need, if you're able to come by between 11 and 4 tomorrow, that would be really fantastic to pick up those things. And then we also have car tags, and we also have, some of you have been working with Miss Blankenship on device items. So those things will be available for pickup as well.
Dr. Worthy, I wanted to clarify about the car tags. If you have a pre-K student, but you also have, say, a second grader, the pre-K student will go under the second grader's tag, but Ms. Payne would like for you to call her so that she can manually add that just to make sure.
And if you have a car tag from the previous year and it's still in good condition, you can still use it. The numbers stay the same. Are there any other questions?
I just had a question. If our student is exposed, we get the phone call, do they need to stay home for 14 days? What's the policy there?
Very good question. So if your student is exposed, then our nurse will contact you and let you know what needs to happen, because it really does depend on whether or not if they've been exposed to someone that has how long they've been around that person. So if they were around that person for, that 15-minute window, or if that person was just in their classroom. So it really does depend. And it depends on if they are exhibiting symptoms or not. So there's a 10-day window and there's a 14-day window. We also have a code to actually put into campus for attendance if they are quarantined, so it doesn't count against their attendance either. So we'll definitely contact you specifically and tell you what needs to happen, because it is a case by case. I just noticed another question real quick too about escorting kids to class. Yes, we will have people there to escort children into the classrooms, and I'm doing a video today. And so the video is going to address what the building looks like. I'm hoping to get it pushed out by tomorrow so that you guys can show it to your students, and so that they can have an idea, especially our kids that are new, that have never been to Timothy before, not just our pre-K babies, but our kids that are in upper grades that have transferred to Timothy. They're coming in and they've never been here. So we want to show them what the building looks like, especially since you can't walk in with them. So yes, please look for a video that's going to come out, and we're going to show them what the changes are. We'll show them what the water filling station looks like. We'll show them what the cafeteria looks like, what the signs look like, what the classrooms look like. So we'll show them all those things in the video. So I'm gonna try to get that filmed today and pushed out tomorrow. Someone also just asked about the devices, bringing those to school. Yes, they need to bring their devices because we do not have extras for them. And we are still working on whether or not we're gonna have them keep those devices here. We're contemplating letting them stay here during the for a couple of days at a time, because we don't want them to leave them at home, number one. We also don't want them to forget to charge them at night. because we're thinking about all the kids, right? If they forget to charge them, then we have to move them in the classroom and get them closer to an outlet, which changes their cohort group and where they're seated. So we really we're going to think through that and give you some more direction. So I have a meeting with my media specialist. We've been thinking about that all week and going back and forth of, should they take them home every day? Should they leave them here? You know, what should we do? So we're going to finalize that today to determine whether or not they need to take them home daily or leave them here. If we do allow them to take them home daily, it is going to be their responsibility to plug them up at night, because we don't want them to leave them at home because you can't drop them off, and we don't want them to forget to plug them up because they'll be dead and they won't be any good for them.
We have a parent here that said she's been in and out of meetings and she wants to know if she missed uniforms being addressed.
We are, I'm sorry, I got tongue tied. We waived uniforms at the beginning of the year, so we're holding to that. We are not going to require uniforms. If you have them and your students want to wear them, they can, but we are not going to require them right now, because we knew that we're in the middle of a pandemic and we didn't know what was going to happen at the beginning of the school year. So we did waive those just this year, and we'll revisit it at the end of the year for the next school year. You're welcome. You all have asked some really fabulous questions. I know that you'll think of some other things after we're finished. And of course, you can always email Ms. Hill, myself, or Ms. Blankenship. We are here to answer any questions that you have as best as we can. We are here to help you get through this, because we're all here together. We're here to work through this together. And it is difficult, but we're going to make it through. And our kids are so resilient and they're so flexible. They're going to jump in and just be like rock stars at this. So we know that they're going to do a great job. And I just really appreciate all of you and your support and what you've done for our students. Oh, one thing I did forget to mention, we do have additional masks for students. So if students forget their mask, that day, we do have masks. And if you'd like to donate extra masks, we'll take those too, because we want to make sure that everyone has one if they forget a mask, during the day. So we'll have those available for kids as well. But we just appreciate you guys for what you've done to support us, and just know that we are really doing our best to make sure that we can make this a smooth transition for everyone. That we can provide the appropriate instruction for our students, and that we can help our teachers, and help them be safe, and help our students be safe, and make sure that you guys are safe too, because these babies are coming back home to you. So we want to make sure that we keep you guys safe as well. So thank you so much for everything. We appreciate you. And I will try to clean up my PowerPoint and make it available to you so that you can go back and review it again. And again, I'll make sure this is available on our Media Center YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe so that you can get all of our announcements and everything else. You all have a wonderful, wonderful day, and thank you for joining us.